Defense briefings start to mention the same regions again and again. Commercial pilots report rerouted paths, while NORAD and FAA issue quiet notices.
We are already in the first stages of a World War III.
This is an attack warning. I repeat, this is an attack warning.
End the world.
Let's break down how nuclear targeting actually works and which U.S. state is at the maximum risk. When military planners think about nuclear war, they do not start with states on a map. They start with tasks. Which enemy forces must be stopped? Which command centers must be blinded? Which ports and airfields must be put at risk or destroyed? In simple terms, there are two broad ideas. Counterforce means targeting weapons, bombers, submarines, radar, and command sites. Countervalue means targeting cities and industry. The first aims to reduce an opponent's ability to fight. The second is meant to punish and pressure. Real plans often mix both ideas in complex ways. Public information, open source maps, and old Cold War papers give hints, not exact lists. What they show most clearly is the pattern. Fixed missiles, bomber bases, submarine pens, large naval yards, strategic headquarters, and key early warning radars sit near the top of any serious list. From that view, the question is less which state gets hit first, and more which functions an opponent wants to strike early. Land-based missile fields, strategic bomber hubs, submarine and carrier ports, national leadership bunkers, and major sensor sites are the main categories. They rank targets by timing and importance. You picture a map with one red circle over your home. Planners picture networks of silos, runways, ports, communication cables, and power nodes. Their target folders are built around capabilities, not internet rankings. That difference matters when you try to think about your own risk. When people argue about which state gets hit first, they imagine one missile crossing the globe. Real exchanges do not work that way. Many launch platforms can fire within minutes of each other. Ballistic missiles on submarines at sea can reach coastal targets in short flight times. Intercontinental missiles from distant land areas take longer, but still arrive within minutes, not hours. Aircraft might carry weapons in later waves, yet they are slow and much more visible on radar. From the ground, that means several regions could be hit so close together that nobody could say who was first in any useful way. You would see alerts, hear rumors, maybe lose power, and then the real effects would arrive. There is also real uncertainty. No outside analyst knows the exact plans or how a real crisis would change them. An opponent could hold back some forces, target different sites than expected, or suffer failures in the middle of a strike. You want one simple state name. The honest answer is that your risk comes from what is near you, not from who appears first on a list. When people talk about missile states, they often picture big concrete domes and warning signs on every hill. In parts of the Great Plains, the reality looks much quieter. Fields, small towns, long roads, and the occasional fenced area beside a dirt track. States like Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, and nearby regions host land-based intercontinental missiles and important support units. The exact details are classified, but open sources and basic logic tell you the broad picture. Fixed missile fields and their command links are a major part of the nuclear force. Those scattered points form a clear pattern on maps. From a national view, these silos sit at the heart of the land-based leg of the triad. They give the country a way to fire back, even if some forces are destroyed. That means any serious opponent has to assume they must be hit early, or at least threatened, if a large exchange begins. From the civilian side, daily life in these areas can feel normal. You drive past ranches and small towns that look like any other rural community. You may see a guarded site on the horizon and not think much about what sits below. In truth, these regions combine low population with high target value. If warheads are inbound, warning time may be very short. Some people nearby might never hear a siren or alert in time to move. The idea that living far from the coasts or big cities keeps you safe ignores this cluster of quiet but important sites. Coastal states carry a different kind of weight in nuclear planning. They host the ports, airfields, and command sites that connect the country to the oceans and to the wider world. For an opponent, those are obvious places to watch and, in a crisis, to threaten. On the Pacific side, states like California and Washington include major fleet hubs, shipyards, logistics ports, and key air bases. These are the places where ships are repaired, supplied, and sent out. Long-range aircraft train and deploy from nearby runways. Critical radar and communications sites help tie the ocean picture to national leaders. On the Atlantic and around the national capital region, Virginia and parts of Maryland carry similar roles. Naval bases, joint command centers, and support units cluster near ports and the seat of government. The exact layouts change over time, yet the basic pattern stays the same. Power and infrastructure stack up near deep water and political centers. From the ground, you may think of these states as tech hubs, film centers, beach destinations, or government towns. You do not walk past a pier and see a target symbol. You see tourists, workers, and traffic. Nearby suburbs and cities feel the effects, even without direct damage. A high population multiplies the impact of any strike or near miss. A hit on a port, shipyard, or large base does more than damage metal. It shakes shipping, fuel supplies, and trade that support the rest of the country. That is why coastal command states draw attention in every serious planning room. Not every high-risk state has missile fields or huge naval fleets. Some matter because of what their cities, factories, and networks do for the wider system. From an opponent's view, pressure on those nodes can weaken a country without touching every square mile. One category is large population and economic centers. Places with dense finance, technology, and media activity shape national power in ways that are hard to measure on a map. Interfering with those hubs can shake confidence, markets, and decision-making, even if leadership survives. Another category is energy. States with big refinery complexes, petrochemical plants, and major pipeline junctions play a large role in fuel supply. They may not look like military targets, but cutting their output can slow aircraft, ships, trucks, and industry far from the blast. Transport is a third layer. Air cargo hubs, rail yards, and inland ports move food, spare parts, and equipment between coasts and towns. If those choke points fail, shelves empty in places that never see direct damage. You might live hundreds of miles from a silo or sub-base, but if your city is a national hub for oil, money, or freight, it still sits on someone's planning slide. In a long crisis, pressure on those nodes can be early or delayed. Outside observers cannot know which path a real conflict would take over time. For grounded breakdowns like this, subscribe to the WW3 files and prepare with information, not fear. Online maps often highlight a few states as safe zones. They tend to be places with lower population, little heavy industry, and fewer large visible bases. On paper, that looks like an easy answer. You move there, and the problem is solved. Reality is more mixed. A state with few direct targets can still sit under important flight paths or downwind of several strikes. Weather moves fallout, smoke, and dust across borders in hours or days. A calm valley on one map can end up with real contamination on another. These safer states also rely on links to the rest of the country. Fuel, food, medical supplies, and spare parts flow in from refineries, warehouses, and factories in higher-risk regions. If those links are cut or squeezed, the quiet state feels it through empty shelves and long waits, not through bright flashes. People in those areas would also see pressure from outside. When harder-hit regions run short, families with ties to safer states may try to move in for shelter. Local housing, jobs, and services can strain fast. Tension between long-time residents and sudden arrivals is a real possibility. You are not choosing a magic shield. At best, you are trading one kind of risk for another. A state with fewer targets may give you more time and less direct blast danger, but you still have to plan for fallout, supply problems, and the stress of helping others. That takes planning, patience, and realism. All of this talk about targeting and nodes can feel abstract until you bring it down to one family on one street. That is where you live the crisis, not in war room diagrams. From your house, information arrives late and broken. Local alerts might refer to events hundreds of miles away, while social media fills with unverified maps showing red circles over dozens of cities. Relatives send worst-case graphics and insist that your state is doomed or that theirs is the only safe option. Inside the family, reactions differ. One person wants to pack the car and drive out tonight. Another insists that nothing will happen and refuses to discuss it. Someone else quietly worries about where to put the kids if schools close and work shuts down for days. What you can control is smaller, but real. You can learn which bases, ports, refineries, or plants sit near you without obsessing over every rumor. You can look at simple wind patterns and terrain to see where fallout might travel if something hits those sites. You can be honest about your building and your neighborhood, where you would shelter, and where you could go if you really had to move. What you should avoid is turning state rankings into a daily ritual. No location is a guaranteed death sentence. No location is pure safety. Your risk is shaped by your surroundings and your choices, not by a color on a viral chart seen on screens daily. Once you step away from state lists, the practical questions get simpler. Where are you? What is close to you? What can you change before a crisis starts? Those answers really shape more of your outcome than any ranking. First, learn your area. Without sharing details online, look at public maps and see whether you live near obvious high-value sites such as large air bases, naval ports, refineries, or known missile fields. You do not need inside knowledge. You only need a sense of what is around you within a reasonable drive. Second, think about shelter. Pick at least one interior room or basement with few windows where you could stay for a day or more if told to remain indoors. Store some water, simple food that does not need much cooking, and basic first aid items where you can reach them fast. Third, consider how you would handle communication if the networks fail. Have a written list of key phone numbers, a battery-powered radio, and a simple plan for checking on nearby relatives or neighbors in person. Be careful with the idea of moving across the country to chase the perfect state. For most families, uprooting is costly and does not erase real risk. Modest supplies, a clear plan to shelter, and better ties with people around you will help in nuclear crises, storms, cyber problems, and long blackouts alike. It is easy to forget that nuclear plans are written mainly to stop wars, not to start them. Deterrence only works if each side believes the other can still respond after a first strike. That belief shapes how forces are built and where they sit. Governments and militaries focus a lot of quiet effort on preventing miscalculation. They build early warning systems, secure communication lines, and backup command centers so that one strange radar return or one bad message does not trigger disaster. Arms control talks, hotlines, and military-to-military contacts are part of the same goal. For you, understanding this does two things. It explains why certain places carry more risk if a war ever breaks out. It also reminds you that the people who study this problem for a living are trying, however imperfectly, to keep the worst case from happening at all. Risk is real, and headlines can sometimes spike it for short periods. Your response cannot be to stare at state maps every night. A better answer is to treat basic preparedness and community ties as a steady habit, something that helps with many kinds of trouble, not only the most extreme scenario. Where you live matters, but how you prepare and who you stand with matter more. Stay informed, stay modestly ready, and do not let fear run your life each day.